April 1994. A farmhouse in Iowa. Clint Eastwood stands outside a bedroom door, his hand hovering near the handle. He is 64 years old, one of the biggest directors in Hollywood, and he is terrified to walk into a room where Meryl Streep is waiting. Because in the next 3 minutes, Clint is going to do something he has never done before. He is going to ask the greatest actress of her generation if she will do less, speak quieter, be smaller, and if he gets it wrong, he will ruin the film of his life. The Bridges of Madison County is a love story, simple on the surface. A photographer arrives at a farmhouse in Iowa. A lonely housewife answers the door. They have 4 days together. Then he leaves. She stays. That is the entire plot. But underneath that simplicity is something profound. A meditation on choices, on roads not taken, on the kind of love that breaks you precisely because it cannot be kept. Clint read the book 2 years earlier. It moved him in ways he did not expect, not because of the romance, though that was part of it, but because of the restraint, the way the characters carried entire lifetimes of longing in a single glance, the way they said more with silence than most people say with words. Clint understood that. He had built a career on silence, on the power of what is not said. But this film needed something Clint had never really explored before. Vulnerability. Not the tough guy vulnerability of Dirty Harry or William Money. Real vulnerability. The kind that does not come with a gun or a horse or a weathered face hidden beneath a Stetson. The kind that requires you to stand in front of someone and admit that you are lonely, that you have lived a good life, a decent life, but something essential is missing, and you do not know if you will ever find it. To make that work, Clint needed Meryl Streep. There was no one else. He knew that from the moment he read the book. Francesca Johnson required an actress who could convey entire decades of quiet desperation without ever raising her voice. Who could show you a woman who loved her husband and children but still felt invisible? Who could make you understand that sometimes the greatest tragedy is not suffering, but settling? Meryl said yes immediately. She read the script and knew this was different from anything she had done. Not a period piece, not a character with an accent or a historical weight to carry. Just a woman, an ordinary woman in an ordinary house, living an ordinary life until 4 days changed everything. The first week of production is smooth. They are shooting on location in Iowa, a real farmhouse, real fields, real heat. Clint runs the set the way he always does. Quiet, efficient. He does not yell. He does not demand multiple takes. He trusts his actors. He trusts his crew. And most of all, he trusts the silence. But there is a problem. And Clint sees it on day 5. They are filming a scene in the kitchen. Robert Kincaid, played by Clint, has just arrived. Francesca is making iced tea. It is their first real conversation. The scene is written with dialogue, small talk about directions, about the covered bridges, about the weather. But underneath the words, something else is happening. 2 people are recognizing each other, not as strangers, as possibilities. Meryl is brilliant in the scene. Of course she is. She always is. But she is also doing what great actors do. She is filling every moment with choice. Her voice shifts register. Her hands move purposefully. She makes eye contact at specific moments. Every line reading is precise, considered, layered. She is giving a masterclass in acting. And it is completely wrong for this film. Clint watches the playback and knows he has a problem. Meryl is too good. She is showing you everything Francesca is feeling. Every nuance, every shift, every thought. But this character should not show you everything. She has spent her entire life hiding what she feels, burying it so deep that she barely knows it is there anymore. Until this man walks into her kitchen and she cannot hide anymore. That night, Clint does not sleep. He lies in his hotel room staring at the ceiling thinking about how to tell Meryl Streep that she needs to do less. He has directed actors for 20 years. He has worked with Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Costner. But he has never worked with anyone like Meryl. She has won 2 Academy Awards. She has been nominated for 9. She is a technician, a craftsman, someone who approaches acting the way a watchmaker approaches a timepiece. Every gear matters. Every detail counts. And Clint is about to tell her that none of that matters here, that this film requires something different, something harder, the absence of technique, the presence of truth. The next morning, Clint arrives on set early. Meryl is already there, in costume, reviewing the script for the day's scenes. She looks up when Clint approaches. "Good morning?" Her smile is warm, professional. She is ready to work. Clint nods. "Morning." He hesitates. "Can we talk before we start?" "Just for a few minutes." "Of course." They walk to Francesca's bedroom. It is a small room, plain, unadorned. The bed is neatly made. The curtains are simple cotton. Everything about the space says this is a woman who does not indulge, who does not dream, who has learned to be content with less. Clint sits on the edge of the bed. Meryl sits in the chair by the window. She is watching him carefully. She has worked with enough directors to know when something is wrong. Clint takes a breath. What I am about to say might sound strange. Meryl nods. That is okay. Strange is good sometimes. I have been watching the footage from the kitchen scene. You are incredible in it. Every choice you made is right, but I do not think they are right for this film. Meryl does not react defensively. She just listens. Clint continues. Francesca is not someone who shows her feelings. She has spent 40 years as a farmer's wife in rural Iowa. She loves her family, but she is invisible to them. They do not ask her what she thinks. They do not wonder what she dreams about. They just expect her to be there, to cook, to clean, to hold everything together. And she does, because that is what she was taught to do. But all that feeling, all that longing, all that unfulfilled desire, it is still inside her. It has to be. Otherwise, Robert would not affect her the way he does. Meryl is nodding slowly. So you want me to hide it? Not hide it, Clint says. Bury it. Let us see glimpses. A flash in the eyes, a hesitation before she speaks. A moment where her hand reaches for something and then pulls back. But I do not want to see her performing her feelings. I want to see her fighting not to feel them, and then failing, and then realizing she is failing, and then not knowing what to do with that. The room is quiet. Outside, the crew is setting up for the day's first shot. Meryl looks at Clint. This is going to be harder than what I was doing. I know it might not look like anything. I know that too. If I do it right, people might think I am not doing anything at all. Clint meets her eyes. If you do it right, people will feel everything. They just will not know why. Meryl stands up, walks to the window. She looks out at the fields. They stretch endlessly, flat, unbroken. You are asking me to trust you. Yes, to trust that less is more. Yes, to trust that the audience will see what is not there. Clint stands. I am asking you to trust that the audience is smart, that they do not need to be told what to feel, that if we give them the truth, quiet and small and real, they will feel it more deeply than if we perform it for them. Meryl turns from the window. I have never worked this way before. I know. I have built my entire career on precision, on control, on making deliberate choices that communicate character. I know. And you are asking me to let go of all of that. Clint shakes his head. I am asking you to use all of that, all that skill, all that technique, all that control, to create something that feels like it has no technique at all. To be so precise that you become invisible. To choose so carefully that it looks like you are not choosing. Meryl is quiet for a long moment. Then she smiles. Slightly, almost to herself. That is the hardest thing an actor can do. I know. It is also the bravest. I know that too. They return to set. Clint calls for quiet. The crew positions themselves. The camera rolls. And Meryl does something extraordinary. She disappears, not as an actress, as a performer. She becomes Francesca, not the idea of Francesca. The reality. A woman making iced tea. A woman who has made iced tea 10,000 times. A woman who does not think about making iced tea because it is so familiar it requires no thought. But when Robert speaks, when Clint's character asks her about the Bridges, something shifts, barely. A pause before she answers, a glance that lasts half a second too long, a small intake of breath. That is all. But it is everything, because in that tiny pause you see 40 years of loneliness. In that glance you see a woman who forgot she was allowed to be seen. In that breath you see the moment she realizes she is still alive. Clint does not call cut immediately. He lets the scene breathe, lets the silence do its work. When he finally calls cut, the crew is motionless. They have just witnessed something rare. Not acting. Truth. Clint walks over to Meryl. She looks at him, uncertain for the first time since production began. Was that right? He nods. That was perfect. But I did almost nothing. Exactly. Over the next 6 weeks, they fall into a rhythm. Clint rarely gives Meryl direction. He does not need to. She has understood what he is asking for. She has let go of the need to show her work. She is simply being. And it is devastating. The scene where Francesca and Robert dance in the kitchen. No music, just the two of them swaying in the lamplight. Meryl does not smile. She does not gaze lovingly into Clint's eyes. She just dances. And tears stream down her face. Silent tears. The kind that come without warning. The kind that you cannot stop. The kind that means something inside you has broken open. The scene where Robert asks her to come with him. To leave Iowa. Leave her family. Leave her entire life. Francesca stands at the truck in the rain, her hand on the door handle. The choice is simple. Open the door, get in, drive away, be happy. But she does not open the door. She stands there, water pouring over her, and you watch her choose. Not with words, with silence, with the way her hand trembles on the handle, with the way she closes her eyes, with the way she finally, slowly steps back. Clint films it in one take. He does not say anything to Meryl beforehand. He does not tell her what to feel. He just starts the rain machine and calls action. And Meryl stands there and chooses and breaks, and you can see it happening in real time, not performed, lived. When Clint calls cut, Meryl does not move immediately. She stays in the rain for a moment longer. Then she walks off set without speaking to anyone. Clint does not follow her. He knows she needs space, needs to let Francesca go, needs to come back to herself. 20 minutes later, Meryl returns. Her hair is dry. She has changed clothes. She finds Clint by the monitor. "Thank you," she says quietly. "For what? For trusting me to find it, for not directing me into it, for knowing that sometimes the best direction is no direction." Clint looks at her. "I did not do anything. You did everything. You just did not need me to tell you how." The Bridges of Madison County wraps production 8 weeks later. The final cut is 135 minutes. It is the quietest film Clint has ever made. No action, no violence, no grand speeches, just two people in a farmhouse talking, and not talking, and falling in love, and saying goodbye. The film premieres in June 1995. Critics are divided. Some call it Clint's masterpiece. Others say it is too slow, too subtle, too restrained. But audiences understand. They fill theaters. They sit in silence. They cry. Not because the film tells them to, because the film lets them feel. Meryl is nominated for her 10th Academy Award. She does not win. Susan Sarandon wins for Dead Man Walking, but when Meryl is asked about the performance years later, she does not talk about the nomination. She talks about standing in that farmhouse in Iowa, about learning to do less, about discovering that the hardest thing an actor can do is trust the silence. A journalist once asked Clint why he was nervous to direct Meryl Streep. Clint looked at him like the question was strange. "I was not nervous to direct her," he said. "I was nervous to ask her to trust me, to trust that I knew what I was asking for, even though it went against everything she had been trained to do, to trust that silence could be more powerful than speech, that stillness could be more moving than movement, that doing nothing could be everything. And did she trust you? Clint thought for a moment. She trusted the story. She trusted that Francesca deserved to be told truthfully, not beautifully, truthfully. And once she understood that, she did not need me anymore. She just needed to be left alone to find it. That is who Clint Eastwood is. Not the director who controls every moment, the director who knows when to step back, who understands that great acting cannot be directed, it can only be allowed, who trusts his actors enough to give them space and silence and the freedom to discover truth on their own. In that bedroom in Iowa, when Clint told Meryl to do less, he was not criticizing her. He was freeing her from the need to perform, from the pressure to show her work, from the obligation to prove she was a great actress. Because great acting is not about proving anything. It is about being, fully, honestly, without decoration. The Bridges of Madison County is a film about a choice, but it is also a film about trust. Francesca trusts Robert enough to let him see her. Robert trusts Francesca enough to leave when she asks him to, and Clint trusted Meryl enough to let her find Francesca in the silence. That trust created something rare, a performance so quiet you barely notice it is happening, so subtle you might miss it if you are not paying attention, so true it does not feel like acting at all. It feels like watching a real woman make a real choice that will haunt her for the rest of her life. And that is the legacy of Clint Eastwood, not just the films he made, the way he made them. With respect, with restraint, with the understanding that sometimes the greatest thing a director can do is nothing. Just set up the camera, call action, and trust that the actor will find the truth. On that April morning in 1994, Clint walked into a bedroom nervous, not because he doubted himself, because he respected Meryl enough to know that what he was asking was difficult, possibly impossible, but he asked anyway, and she listened, and she trusted, and together they created a moment that changed both of their careers, not loudly, not obviously, quietly, the way all meaningful change happens, in a farmhouse in Iowa. In the silence between two people who understood that some things cannot be said, they can only be felt. If you found something in this story that moved you, that made you see these two artists differently, consider staying. There are more stories like this. Quiet stories, true stories. Stories about the moments that define us when nobody is watching. No pressure, just an invitation to keep listening, to keep discovering, to keep finding the truth in the silence.